Good morning, my friends. This is the New Testament Challenge. Today is my devotional reflections, thoughts on the Gospel of Matthew, the 14th chapter. This is Matthew chapter 14. So the first story in Matthew 14 is kind of the almost a flashback, I would say, talking about John the Baptist. And it says Herod was starting to hear rumors of Jesus, and he said it must have been John the Baptist come back from the dead, because he had arrested John and bound him and sent him to prison. But he was not real happy with John, but he was afraid of the crowds. And then one day, Herodias' daughter came and danced for him, and he says, "I'll give you whatever you want." And her mother told her, "I want the head of John the Baptist on a plate." And so that's what happened. And so we hear this at the beginning, just kind of to give you an idea of some of the rumors that were around about Jesus. Some people had him as a prophet, some people had him as Elijah, and then you hear John the Baptist, what happened there. And people were afraid, concerned, even people of power concerned about who this Jesus was. And so after that, I like this, verse 13, he says, "Now when he had heard this about John, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself." A wonderful indication of the humanity of Jesus here, when he heard that his cousin, John, had been beheaded. I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I'm grieving, I want to be I don't need family, I don't need friends, I just need time to be alone, to kind of process it. And I think that's what Jesus did, is he went by himself to kind of process things, and people flocked to him, they found him, and large crowds came after him. And this says something a lot about who Jesus was. He said he looked upon the crowds and he had compassion for them, and he cured their sick. Other passages, he said he had compassion on the people because they were like sheep without a shepherd. People were looking for something, for anything, looking for hope, and they were seeking out there. A lot of people were sick and dealing with demons or possession and even physical ailments, and they had tried anywhere else and everywhere else, and they heard that just Jesus might offer hope for them. And so people were coming, and people will do that. They will run after hope. And my friends, this is one of the things that we have as the church. We have this hope to offer people. So they will run after it. And so they came after him. He said, he had compassion. He stayed there and healed them and taught them. And at the very end, it was getting kind of late. The disciples said, "Lord, you need to send them into the town so they can have something to eat." And Jesus looked at his disciples and said, "You feed them." And they're like, "How can we do that? There's only 5 loaves and 2 fish. But Jesus took it, blessed it, gave it to his disciples, and his disciples handed it out. And after all were ate and were filled, there were 12 baskets left over. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides the women and children. So probably 20,000 people were there. And Jesus did that. And so, again, his concern, he was feeding people spiritually. He was concerned for their physical well-being as well. And he took care of the whole person. He didn't just say, "Well, okay, I've spent today healing your sick, now y'all go get something to eat." No, he didn't. He took care of every part of the person. And then immediately after that, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And when he did that, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Remember, this whole feeding of the 5,000 started with Jesus because he needed time alone to process what had happened to John. So here he was trying again to get that time alone. And he did that. And Early in the morning, he came walking toward them on the sea. He's like, I'll meet you there. And the disciples, they were terrified. No one had ever seen anything like that before. That's part of this. Had never seen anything like that before, and they thought it was a ghost. But Jesus said, y'all calm down. It's okay. It's okay. And then Peter says, Lord, if it's you, command me and I'll come out on the water. And Jesus said, okay, come on. So Peter gets out, starts walking, and gets about halfway there, and then he looks down and he gets scared and he starts to drown. Lord, save me. Jesus reaches out, picks him up and says, oh, ye of little faith, why did you doubt? And they looked around, they looked at him and said, truly you are the Son of God. Even after all the time they had spent with him, they were still amazed at some of the things that he did. And here's the thing that I think, the Old Testament prophecy, I think part of that is it had been around so long, and that everybody, even those who weren't quite in agreement with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all the instructors of the law, the understanding of what the Messiah was pretty well codified. Everybody knew that the Messiah was supposed to come and was supposed to do this, this, and this. And so Jesus came and did those things, but he also did more. He expanded the definition. He expanded the idea of what a Messiah could be and what the chosen one of God would do. And for us, think about that. We hear the Word of God, and so we get an understanding of what is written. But there's more to God than what is written. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we think, oh, we know everything there is to be about God because we found it in this book. Well, God is bigger than the book. God is bigger. This is the Word of God. We're talking about God himself. And so there he gave us a lot. But the fullness of God is still so much bigger. So much more. And his Son was like that. His Son is so much more than we could ever hope for, imagine, or dream of. And his disciples constantly were finding that out. And we, too, can constantly find out more about who Jesus is. So, something to think about today. I pray that you are enjoying this challenge. Share it with someone. Feel free to share it, pass it on. And again, jump in whenever if this is your first devotional or if this is your 14th. Hey, we're glad you're here. Let's spend time in the Word together, and let's see what God can teach us. Thanks a lot, my friends. We'll talk to you tomorrow.